إن الحمد لله وحده الصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have discussed in our previous sessions many things about the heart, about the disease of the heart, about the knowing the disease of the heart, and then how can we cure it. One of the important things is to know the shortcomings of the heart. How can a person realize or know his shortcomings? As we know that if there is any problem in our physical body, it is very easy to locate, because the pain we feel, the discomfort it gives to us, it makes us to realize that there is something wrong with our any part of body. But same is not case with the spiritual diseases, as they are all hidden. As our soul is hidden, its diseases are also hidden. So today we try to find out in this session some of the methods that will help us to know our shortcomings. In the light of Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah's works, we find that he focuses upon that there are 4 methods that may help the Muslim find out his shortcomings. The first one, he may consult a well-versed scholar who is aware of the defects of the human soul, so that he will tell him about the defects of his soul and how to redress them and how to address them. So this is the first method, that to find out. But as I said before, that it's not as easy as to find out the physical doctor, as these doctors are very rare. These specialists are very rare. So the first thing is that he must try to find out a well-versed scholar. But it's also deadly impossible that there is no one. In each and every region, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed the people with such capabilities and with such characteristics that they are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected them, and they are trying their best, top level best, to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah also, when it is the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the choice lies with us. Whichever way we want to adopt, He will help us. Either the path to good or path to bad, because choice lies with us. So though they don't claim, and they can never claim to have the knowledge of unseen, but on the basis of their expertise in the field, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make them to feel the diseases of a person. So the first method to know our own shortcomings, because we on our part won't be able to find it out. As I said before, because these diseases are very hidden, very concealed. So it is the ulama and scholars, when we be in the company of such people, then it's not that we go to them and we tell him, okay, what disease I have. Then he will say, okay, there's a machine or anything with him. He will have an X-ray and he will say, okay, this disease, this you have. No. Actually, when a person sits in the company of the scholars, they always talk about the good, they always talk about the bad. And this helps a person to compare the things. So their sessions of knowledge, their company, it provides a kind of mirror to them, in which his own image is reflected. He can find out, he can see the shortcomings, the flaws, the faults with him. When a person studies the Quran with the meaning, he can very easily identify that, yes, Quran says, for example, this is the disease. A person can easily find, yes, I also have this disease. Quran mentions that the people are having the love of dunya. A person can feel, yes, I do have this love of dunya, so it is also a disease with me. Same applies to these scholars. When a person is blessed to be in the session of these scholars, to be in their company, so their behavior, their actions, their speech, it helps a person to identify these shortcomings. And second, he may accompany a truthful, pious friend who will watch his actions and help him find out his ill morals. There's a second method. The first method, as I said, is to be in the company of the scholars, because they all the time they talk about the good and bad. All the time they talk about how to achieve the goodness, how to avoid the bad. It is help a person to make a contrast, to make a comparison. And slowly, his iman is also gaining the strength. As I said many a times, that the heart is having its own specific characteristic. That whichever environment you put it in, it will develop the same tendencies. If it is put in the good company, definitely it will have the tendency towards performing the good. On the other hand, if it is put in a bad company, it will develop the tendency towards the bad. It's a basic fundamental characteristic of the heart. So these scholars help a person to find out one's own flaws, one's own faults and shortcomings. It's the best method. And second thing is to be in the company of a truthful, pious friend. And in this era of our 21st century, which is full of fitna, full of trials and tests, everywhere we are surrounded by the trials and tests. The best way to safeguard our iman, to protect our faith and iman and our amal, is to be in the company of the pious friends. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the believers, may Allah be pleased with him, used to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on whoever guides us to our faults. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he was happy when a person would locate or identify any fault in him. He would not get angry. Rather, he would be happy with that person. And he says that may Allah have mercy on whoever guides us to our faults. Because usually we overlook or we misinterpret or we give many explanations to our faults. But others, they can easily see the problems in us through our actions, through our approach, through our behavior. So Sayyidina Umar used to give dua to such people, that they are our friends. Our friend is not the one who conceals our faults. And this way, we are heading towards a path of destruction. Our true friend is the one who identifies our faults, and then he reminds us of our flaws. That you have this problem, my brother, my sister, we need to focus on this. And this denotes how the righteous predecessors used to love and appreciate those who warned them against their faults. But nowadays, those who are most disliked by people are those who guide them to their shortcomings. This is a sign of weakness of iman and faith. When we see our own era, but we find on the other hand, on the contrary, if a person says to me that you have this problem, so I get angry. So how dare he says to me this? Is a sign of weakness of iman. Our predecessors, they would feel happy if any person would tell them that you have this problem, you need to rectify this, you need to redress this problem, you need to address this particular flaw. They'd be happy because they were knowing that if we leave this dunya with the faults and flaws with us, it will have the brutal implications in the life hereafter. So they wanted to leave this dunya in such a way that they are free of all faults and flaws. There's no foible with them. That actually their vision of akhirah was clear. They were men of akhirah and we are men of dunya. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radhiyallahu anhu, he used to say, La be the men of akhirah, don't be the men of dunya. How can we make a difference between men of dunya and men of akhirah? Men of dunya, if he's being told about his flaws, he'll be very angry. If you say to a person, you are short-tempered, please, you need to just develop the patience. So, who are you to teach a lesson to me? I know who am I. Just mind your own business. So get very angry. On the other hand, if we could have reflected on his advice, just peep it into our heart, do I have this really? Yes, I have this. I need to reflect. I need to just address this problem. Otherwise, it will spoil my good deeds. If a person just advises us, yes, you need to be more generous to help others out. We should not get angry. Who are you to teach me such lessons? How do you know that I don't do this thing? So if a person is giving any nasiha to us, we should always think that it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a divine arrangement for our guidance. We should not take it other way around. But the problem nowadays is, as our iman is weakened, our faith is weak, and we are more dunya oriented, worldly oriented people, and our concern for akhirat is almost negligible. So the second thing is which is important to identify, which will help us to find our own shortcomings, is to be in the company of the pious friends. And this is immensely important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. You should be with those who are truthful. So Quran enjoins us. Quran commands us to be in the company of the truthful people. Sayyidina Luqman rahimahullah, in Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a lot of nasiha which he gave to his son. Of these nasiha, of these advices, he says to his son, وَاتَّبِئْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيْهِ. My son, you should always follow the path of those who return to Allah. You should be always in the company of those who are pious, who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ulama say that the dog of Ashabul Kahfi, the men of cave, Quran mentions that there was also a dog with them who chose to be in their company. The pious company is immensely important. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with the pious friends, to be in the company of the pious always. So this is a second way, or second step, second method, which will help us to find out our shortcomings. And again, as that of the scholars, the pious company will prove to be an image, a mirror for us, in which we can see our image. We can see our image into the mirror of our friends. When they are pious enough, we can see, yes, he's doing this good deed, he's performing this good deed, he's staying away from that bad deed, he's not having this flaw, he's not having this problem, he's not having this shortcoming. On the other hand, I do have this problem, because he will prove to be a mirror for me. I do not perform these good deeds. So I will realize this shortcoming. Yes, he is trying his best to stay away from this flaw, but I'm practicing these problems, these faults. So this will help us to understand, to see, to look into the mirror. As Prophet says, there's a hadith, Al-mu'minu mir'atul mu'min. The believer is a mirror to other believers. What is the main function of the mirror? When we look into the mirror, it shows exactly what we are up to. It will neither increase or decrease anything. It will not add up anything, or it will not just remove anything. Rather, it will show exactly what we are up to. That's the main function of the mirror. That's why we look into the mirror, to see how we look like. It shows us a clear picture. Same is applied to the friends, to the pious friends. They will give us a clear picture of ours. They will show us who you are, what we are up to, what amount of goodness is in us, and what amount of bad is in us. It will show clearly to us. So second method is immensely important, to be in the company of the good people. Even if a person is tremendously wicked, his heart is full of diseases, wallahi, the constant company of the pious people will remove the diseases slowly. It will wash away his heart. His heart will be totally clean and purified. And after some period of time, he will realize that there's an inner transformation. And this inner transformation is immensely important. Our apparent changes, though appreciated, Every good is appreciated, but our apparent changes hardly makes any difference unless and until our heart is not changed. We are not changed inside out. So our transformation must take place inwardly. And this pious company is immensely helpful in the transformation of our heart and thought. In the purification of our heart, this company is unavoidable. We cannot tolerate this. So if by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we can find this company, we can find them in the sessions of the knowledge. So there's a common thing in when people you find that they are joining the sessions of deen and knowledge, there is something common that they want to be good, they want to have, they want to tread the path of good, they want to tread the path of virtue so that they could get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third thing, or the third method to find out our own shortcomings. Third, one may discover his own shortcomings through what his enemies and opponents say about him, because vices and failings emerge with enmity and wrath. This is another important thing to find out our own shortcomings. That what the enemies and opponents are saying about him. As many a times, our friends, though there are different types of friends, the true friends are those who, whenever they see any wrong in us, and out of sincerity, they don't want to just belittle our position, rather out of sincerity, they tell us, they identify our problem. But there are other types of friends, they say no, we should not say anything, otherwise he or she will feel offended. So they want to just keep the ties of relationship intact, which stops them to find out the faults, which stops them to reveal the faults to us. That's again a problem for a person. On the other hand, enemies, they won't spare anything. Whenever there is any fault in us, they will try to address it, and then they will try to make it public. They exaggerate it. So we should just pay an attention towards what the enemy says about us. If they say what we have in us, then we should be also thankful to them. Though we are not able to say in front of them, but we should be thankful to them. At least they were instrumental in making us realize that this fault lies in us. And our biggest enemy is shaitan. Our biggest enemy, terrible enemy is our shaitan. Shaitan is our terrible and biggest enemy. And one of the characteristics of shaitan is that he is steadfast on his path. So we need to learn many lessons from shaitan. That he is sincere in his unlawful activities. He is steadfast in his unlawful activities. He is never regretful for his unlawful activities. So we should just do the opposite. We should be steadfast upon the path of good and path of virtue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. He's your open enemy. So whatever things he likes, we should do opposite of it. So there's another way to find out our shortcomings. Whatever shaitan likes of us, like he likes us to lie, to tell a lie, to break the promises, to be sinful, to disobey our Allah, disobey prophets, disobey the parents, disobey our scholars, and anything. So we need to see what are the things which make shaitan happy, and they are in us. We need to just abandon them, avoid them. And the fourth thing is, the Muslim may mingle with people and avoid every blameworthy act he may see among them. This is the fourth step, or the fourth method to find out our shortcomings. that one may mingle with people and avoid every blameworthy act he may see them doing. When we are with the people, they are good people, they are bad people. And whatever good we see among the people, we should try to adopt it. And whatever bad we see in them, because there are certain companies which are unavoidable. Say, for example, a person is a jobber, so he has to go to the office, so he cannot avoid this. So there can be many people who are not good, but he cannot avoid this bad company. Or a person is doing a business and he has to face the customers on regular basis. So during this type of interaction, we may come across with many a good people or many a bad people. If we are supposed to face the good people, and then we should try to follow the good deeds, whatever good deeds they are doing and which we are not doing. So we try to just focus upon it and try to practice it. At the same breath, there may be the people who are doing something wrong, which is not appreciated by, which is not permitted by Allah and not His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we find them, they are doing this, so we should try our top level best to avoid it, not to practice that. Because we must remember always the last verses of Surah Zalzala. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whoever performs any good deed to the weight of an atom, he shall see it. Whoever performs any bad deed to the weight of an atom, he shall see it. So everything is stored and spared for us. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radhiyallahu anhu, he used to say that our grave, our kubur is a box. And you will come to know what you have stored into your box when you die, when you pass away. When you will be entrusted to this grave, then and there, you will realize what you have stored in it. So all our deeds are being recorded. We must always remind ourselves about it. All our deeds are being recorded. And all deeds will be presented before us. لا تخفى منكم خافية. There is nothing which is going to be hidden from you. Everything will be presented before you. ما لهذا الكتاب لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها. The person will cry out on the day of judgment. ما لهذا الكتاب, what a kind of account this is. لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة. It doesn't leave any good or bad, any small or big. لا يغادر صغيرا ولا كبيرا. It doesn't leave any small or the big, minor or the major sin, or the minor or the major good deed. Everything is recorded over there. So a person should always think with himself that whenever he come across with the people doing good or bad, whatever good they are doing, he should try his top level best to adopt it. And she should try top level best to avoid the bad things. We have already cited that desires are created for certain benefits. But it should be borne in mind that what is condemned in here is that desires control man instead of benefiting him. Still, he should not deprive himself totally of satisfying his desires according to Allah's commands, as this is unjust and contradicts the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After all, man should have mercy on and be gentle on his own self so that it may be able to act properly and soundly. This is immensely important, that we should try to do as per our own capability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ittaqullaha mastata'tum. You fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. So a person is supposed to exert his endeavors, make his efforts as much as he can. We cannot, yes, this is deadly impossible that we can achieve the highest perfection, because we are sinful people. As Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, kullu bani Adam khatta'un. All the sons of Adam are sinful, who are making the tawbah, who are repenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever they do anything wrong, they return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was actually one of the verse was revealed, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O those who believe, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He deserved to be feared. When this verse was revealed, it was very difficult for the Sahaba. They came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how can we fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He deserved to be feared? Then after that, this verse was revealed, you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. So firstly, we need to find out our faults. As I said before, the first thing for the patient is to realize the disease. And then he need to find out what diseases are with him. The first job of the doctor is to identify what disease are with the patient. What are the diseases he is suffering through? And a person has to locate them, has to identify them. Then we discuss about the various methods which will help a person to identify and locate his own shortcomings, his own faults. The first one we discuss about to consult the scholars, to be in the company of the scholars, whose speeches, whose actions, whose behavior will help a person to mend his ways. And a person can easily compare himself with the teachings of these scholars, what they say. And second one is to be in the company of the good and pious friends, and thinking that these friends are my mirrors. A person should see his image into the mirror of his friends, which will help him to identify the shortcomings very easily. And the third thing we discuss about that he must pay the attention towards the sayings of his enemies and opponents, what they say about him. As the enemies, they won't spare. If they find any fault, any flaw, any foible in a person, they make it public. So a person should see what they say about him. That will also help him to find out his own shortcomings, his own problems. And the fourth thing that he should mix up with the people, as many sessions are unavoidable sessions, or many meetings, as you said, like that of a jobber or a businessman who is supposed to face their customers on a regular basis. So he must see what good deeds are in them and try to adopt it. And he also see what bad deeds are in them and try to avoid it. And then a person should try his top level best to strike the balance, not to cross the limits, as wasatiyya. To be moderate is always appreciated in all walks of life. So these are the methods. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to find out our own shortcomings. And then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq to have the company of such people which will help us to overcome these shortcomings. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with the true knowledge and true gnosis and ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the good of the dunya and good of the akhirah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen.